Scholarship always begins with a question. What about something? How is it done? Who is doing it? Why is something done? And my mother showed me that you could change things by acting, understanding how a problem can be solved. She became the president of the local PTA. I went to a 2-room schoolhouse. I asked her how she decided to do that. She said, well, I had an idea how to make the school better, and I wanted to lead that. And that impressed me. I have applied this approach of activist scholarship in my work with American Indian tribes and their leaders, and my work with Indigenous leaders, tribes from around the world. One good example of how scholarship and activism come together was an experience I had with the Quileute Indian tribe many years ago. The Quileute wanted to set their boundaries around their territory. Now, you might imagine that those territorial boundaries had already been agreed to a long time ago. Well, yes, they had been, but the United States forgot about it, and they began using territory that belonged to the tribe. The tribe's boundaries were always in question since the United States government didn't live up to its treaty with the Quileute. So the question was, where is the Quileute boundary? Oliver Jackson, one strong elder from the Quileute, said, let's find out. And he decided to walk the traditional boundary of the Quileute territory step by step, all the way around the territory. And he and I then proposed that the Quileute Tribal Council take the information about that trek around the territory and travel to the United States government and tell them where that boundary is. Well, I designed a map that would describe the territory based on the elders' description. It was proposed then to the Tribal Council that we travel to the Washington, D.C. to meet with the U.S. government's Secretary of the Interior. I said, you should proclaim the boundary as Elder Oliver Jackson marked it off, and the map shows, and tell the U.S. government that that is the boundary on this map. And they met with the Secretary of the Interior and delivered their statement. The boundary they proclaimed many years ago in Washington, D.C., is the boundary of the Quileute territory to this day. If it's a little bit better than what it was, then that's a success. That occurred to me one time many years ago when I said to a tribal government official, you know, your tribal council should make all the decisions for your people. Your own government should make these decisions. And we call that self-government, governing yourself. And I said to the leader, we should proclaim that and make that happen. And he turned to me and he said, oh, Rudy, the people are not ready to do that. The people are unaware of how to do that. You can't do it now. Wait for 5 years and come back and say it again. 5 years later, I did say it again. And then it took 10 years from that point to persuade many people that this was an important idea. And now, well, treaties were agreed between these Indian tribes and the United States government, and they're called Compacts of Self-Government. They were made with 300 tribes in the United States. And you would say, well, that took 15 years. I'd say, yes, that's quite an obstacle. But persistence was essential, especially if you thought you were right. Keep working at it. Keep working. Learn how the other person understands the question and see whether or not they too might have some ideas. And if they then have ideas, you compare your idea with theirs. And then you say, ah, we investigated this together. Let's take action to achieve what we set out to accomplish. And if you're persuasive, you can cause people to work with you. I think it's important to believe in myself and always look for alternative ways to persuade people about the value of the ideas and the action. I remain curious and I wonder at ideas. Many people would just throw their hands up in the air and say, well, no one wants to do what I think is a good idea. What you do, or what I did, was I kept looking into it. I kept investigating and conducting research and trying to find different ways to explain the idea of self-government. But it's a complicated problem because it does involve a lot of people's decisions, a lot of people's participation and commitments. And so all of the time from the first 5 years when I was told not to do anything, I said, well, then I'm going to look into this more. I will understand it better so that I can explain it better. We now have 300 treaties of self-government. And it all started when I was being told, oh no, we can't do that. I think I just believe in myself, and I say I will try and try and try until something happens. It doesn't always have to be perfect. I think a lot of people strive for perfection and that stops them. Some people will say, oh, no, that'll never happen. But if you happen to have one win, that is, you win at one thing, that's already evidence that you can win. So then you accept the next win. It's the small things that you build on, one thing at a time. And as you move along, you discover that they all add up. None of us really know what to do because there are so many things around us that are constantly moving and changing. So it's very difficult to say, oh, there's one way to do something. However, if the question is really clear, if somebody says the right question that's useful and you investigate it, it becomes really apparent what the solution is or what the action needs to be. I remember by the time I was 29, I was shocked to discover that people actually listened to my words and acted on my words. It scared me because I thought, wait a minute, I'm only 29 years old. How can they do that? I should be older, and then they would listen to me. But no, what it turns out is that even young people have really good ideas. They listen carefully to good questions, and they have good ways to carry things out. Always embrace questions as the place to start. Learn to make good questions, questions that can lead to concrete investigations, research, and study. And then know that for every question that is truly a good question, there is knowledge to be obtained and action to be taken to bring that knowledge into the world.